Krishna. Uh-oh. Somehow this is on. See if you can find Janardhan. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavitaka Acharya Astoto to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON DDT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Padavitaka Acharya Astoto to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavina Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Anashtapayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktim Bhavati Naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On the 17th day of August, 2018, in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in Canal 4, entitled The Creation of the Fourth Order. Chapter 4, Sati quits her body, text number 25. Kritva samanav anilaujitasana sodhanamutthapya chanabi chakrataha shanayhridi sthapya diyorasi stitham Kanthan bhuvor manyamanindhathanayat Kritva samanav anilaujitasana sodhanamutthapya chanabi chakrataha shanayhridi sthapya diyorasi stitham Kantan bhuvor manyamanindhathanayat Kritva samana vanilaujitasana sodhanamutthapya chanabi chakrataha shanayhridi sthapya diyorasi stitham Kantan bhuvor manyamanindhathanayat Nindithanayat. Go ahead. Kritva samana vanilaujitasana sodhanamutthapya chanabi chakrataha shanayvridi sthapya diyorasi stitham Kantan bhuvor manyamanindhathanayat Kritva samana vanilaujitasana sodhanamutthapya chanabi chakrataha shanayvridi sthapya diyorasi stitham Kantan bhuvor manyamanindhathanayat Kritva, after placing samanau, in equilibrium, anilau, the prana and apana airs, jita asana, having controlled the sitting posture, sa sati, udanam, the life air, uttapya, raising, cha, and nabhi chakrataha, at the circle in the navel, shanai, gradually, ridi, in the heart, sthapya, placing, dhiya, with the intelligence, urasi, towards the pulmonary passage, stitham, having been placed, kantat, through the throat, bhuvoho, of the eyebrows, madhyam, to the middle, anindita, the blameless sati, anayat, raised. Translation: first of all, she, sati, sat in the required sitting posture, and then she carried the life air upwards and placed it in the position of equilibrium near the navel. Then she raised her life air, mixed with intelligence, to the heart, and then gradually toward the pulmonary passage, and from there to between her eyebrows. Purport. The yogic process is to control the air passing within the body in different places called Shat Chakra, the 6 circles of air circulation. The air is raised from the abdomen to the navel, from the navel to the heart, from the heart to the throat, from the throat to between the eyebrows, and from between the eyebrows to the top of the cerebrum. That is the sum and substance of practicing yoga. Before practicing the real yoga system, one has to practice the sitting postures, because this helps in the breathing exercises, which control the airs going upwards and downwards. This is a great technique which one has to practice to attain the highest perfectional stage of yoga. But such practice is not meant for this age. No one in this age can attain the perfectional stage of such yoga. But such people indulge in practicing sitting postures, which is more or less a gymnastic process. By such bodily gymnastics, one may develop a good circulation and may therefore keep one's body fit. But if one simply restricts oneself to that gymnastic process, one cannot attain the highest perfectional stage. The yoga process, as described in the Keshava Shruti, this prescribes how one can control his living force according to his desire and transmigrate from one body to another or from one place to another. In other words, yoga practice is not meant to keep the body fit. Any transcendental process of spiritual realization automatically helps one to keep the body fit, for it is the spirit soul that keeps the body always fresh. As soon as the spirit soul is out of the body, the material body immediately begins to decompose. Any spiritual process keeps the body fit without separate endeavor, but if one takes it that the ultimate aim of yoga is to maintain the body, then he is mistaken. The real perfection of yoga is elevation of the soul to a higher position, or the liberation of the soul from material entanglement. Some yogis try to elevate the soul to higher planetary systems where the standard of life is different from that of this planet and where the material comforts, lifespan, and other facilities for self-realization are greater. And some yogis endeavor to elevate the soul to the spiritual world, the spiritual Vaikuntha planets. The bhakti yoga process directly elevates the soul to the spiritual planets where life is eternally blissful and full of knowledge. Therefore, bhakti yoga is considered to be the greatest of all yoga systems. Om Jnana Timarandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chukshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So this is a summary description of how sati is revving up the heat in her body somehow through the movement of the airs. This can be done, and the result will be self-immolation. Now, it was mentioned a few days ago about what is known as spontaneous combustion, which is a phenomenon, no one can deny it, yet the scientists cannot explain it, of ordinary people, all of a sudden burning up. And yet there's a weird thing because, like it was mentioned, she had a toothbrush, but that wasn't even singed, and only the body is completely immolated. So I've known about this for many years, and I was thinking, well, how does that happen? And it's almost like, a long shot on the what do they call the one-armed bandits? Slot machines. Millions of people go round, and eventually someone hits the jackpot. It's $10,000 or something. So these airs are moving in the body. There's I think 10 different kind of airs moving around. And somehow or other, these spontaneous, because these are not yogis, this is like ordinary Joes, and women, the kids sometimes. And it just happens to come to the combination that sati is doing by her will, knowing the science, and it just causes tremendous heat in the body somehow, some subtle process that we don't know about. But of course, this is the culmination of her whole experience here that she had. She's doing it for a reason, knowing full well. Of course, sati is none other than Durga, so I don't even know if we call her a regular living entity. But she has decided to sever her connection with her father, and the only way to do that is to destroy the physical body. And so this is what her will is, her desire, and she's well versed in the yoga process. Prabhupada describes it here. It's mentioned in the verse, moving the airs up and up the different chakras. And I remember, when I first came in touch with yoga, I had no idea. I didn't come in order to get liberation or love of God. I came actually for health reasons back in 1972. And my first yoga teacher was Amala Bhakta. He wasn't called Amala Bhakta then. He was running a yoga studio on the east side of New York, around 54th Street or something. And his guru, Yogi Gupta, had come some years earlier, before Prabhupada, in the late 50s, I think, somewhere around there. Established the yoga studio in New York, and Amala had come. I think it was called Shiva Prem Swami or something like that. And there he was the head of that ashram, and I learned later that it was all set for him to get a big ashram in Rishikesh or somewhere. His guru was ready to turn that over to him. But he became disenchanted with his guru. I met him once. He would come once or twice a year to New York, and they had, the idea was they put him up in an expensive penthouse in a hotel, and then he would have the students come to get darshan. And depending on how much you paid, you could get up to 15 or 20 minutes of darshan, or if you just didn't pay anything or hardly a little, you get just 5 minutes. So I didn't know much. I just got a 5-minute darshan. And the idea, I think, was that some of them were getting initiated at that point, But it was all on the basis of this idea of better health, and which is what I wanted, and it worked for me. But they were somehow it was on the east side of New York. I don't know if you know Manhattan very much, but that's where all the people come and everything, So on the west side is where you had the younger hip type people, so I went over to that side, and I got involved with another yoga group. And maybe it was Krishna's arrangement. That yoga group was called Integral Yoga, and they did more than just these stretching and bending and a little breathing. They also had some chanting and meditation, and it was in the Yatamat Tatapat mood, which means, well, we're not going to push you in any different direction, so we have different mantras you can chant, different Om Namo Shivaya, this and that, and one of them was Hare Krishna. So that's where I was first introduced to the idea of the little breathing and the sitting and the chanting of mantra, first out loud and then silently like that. So I did that for a while, and I chose Hare Krishna, that mantra, as my meditation mantra, and that kind of unknowingly got me attracted to Krishna, and like that, went that way. But Prabhupada makes the point here that it's easy to get diverted if you're in an environment like America or the West in general, where the bodily consciousness is very strong. Then naturally the process of yoga that helps the body to become slimmer and more healthy can take off and become very popular, and it has. It's practically every city or even small towns. The city has a yoga studio now. But Prabhupada again and again, what's really interesting, there's a nice series of tapes called the Yoga System tapes, where Prabhupada is speaking on the 6th chapter. And that 6th chapter, Dhyana Yoga, where Krishna is describing this process of Ashtanga Yoga. He talks about practicing pranayama. And I always was very taken and inspired by the section, I think it's 20 to 23, which describes the perfection of yoga, the samadhi. How the perfected yogi experiences unending bliss through transcendental senses, and having gained this, Prabhupada loved to chant this little, quote this little phrase, Yang labdha chapadam lavam manyate nadikam chayad. Having attained this, one thinks there's no greater gain, can possibly be no greater gain. And this is indeed, Krishna says at the end of this description, the cessation of all misery that may come from the contact of the soul with the material body. So that's the end of the process of dhyana that he's describing there. Now, of course, at a certain point, he says, one fixes his mind on me, even in that yoga process. It's not some chakra or some yantra or anything. So there's bhakti in there, but it's all toward controlling the mind and sitting straight and fixing the eyes. Now, it's an interesting phrase, nasagre, I think it's something like that, which is what is the beginning of the nose. Now, sometimes it's described as the tip of the nose, but I mean, other times it's between the eyebrows. So the nose begins here and then goes here. I think when they say nasagre, they're talking between the nose. But I've seen, people try to put their, on the tip of the nose, which can only bring cross eyes. Anyway, so that's the thing. All for controlling the mind. Now, I've been just listening to those tapes. I listen to them again and again, recordings and tapes. And Prabhupada is some of the he's most enthusiastic in these tapes. He's mostly in L.A. A few of them are in New York from 66th Street, and he's doing battle, because he's in this environment. His first experience in America, basically after Butler, was at that yoga studio, and he would go on the weekends to the Ananda ashram, and he saw all these titular yogis, and some of them were impressed with Prabhupada, but his Dr. Radhakrishnan, after a while, wouldn't let him. That wasn't Dr. Radhakrishnan. I forget the name. Mishra, Dr. Mishra. He wouldn't let him speak because he saw that his followers were getting interested in Prabhupada and he was afraid of losing his followers. So he wouldn't let Prabhupada speak. He would do kirtan but not speak. So anyway, Prabhupada saw the result. He had exposure, the first thing, to this, this yoga system, which is not bhakti yoga, which is just on the hodgepodge and basically for some little peace and health of body. So in the yoga system tapes, when he's speaking on the 6th chapter, he makes it very clear that this is not the purpose. This is not the purpose of yoga. The purpose of yoga is to fix the mind on Krishna, which Krishna says right in the 6th chapter. But the process that he outlines there, of sitting, going alone to a sacred place, and sitting on a certain kind of seed and drilling the respiration, it's not suitable. In other words, if you fix your mind on the goal of the yoga, and you want to get that, not just the byproducts, which can be a healthy body, then you have to look at the 6th chapter as it leads into the 7th chapter. Because Arjuna rejects the process. Arjuna says, Tanmanye, I don't think I can, controlling the air in the body, controlling the mind by the process you've said is more difficult to control than the wind. Vayu ivasa duskaram. Tanmanye vayu ivasa duskaram. So Prabhupada says, can you control a hurricane if it blows up? He uses that word, You can't control it. So this artificial process, especially in this age for the Kali Yugites, is completely impractical. To achieve the goal, you can have some of the preliminary benefits, and that's what they're getting. So what happens? So Arjuna says, near the end, he says, well, what if I fail? In other words, he's not very optimistic about achieving the goal of this yoga. Won't I have lost everything? I'm going off to the Himalayas somewhere and sit, and I fail. I've already quit, my material side here. I've left all my connections. I'll be like a riven cloud. I'll, fail in everything. He said, no, whatever progress you make, you take to the next body. And you'll be born in a wealthy family, or even better, a transcendental family of yogis and devotees. So nothing is lost. But still, he's not recommending it for Arjuna. So then at the end of the chapter, Krishna gives the final verdict. The yogi nama bisarveshan mudgatein antadatmana shuddhavam bhajate yomam somayaktatamamata. Here you find for the first time in the chapter, at the end of the chapter, the word bhajate, in other words, bhakti. Is that of all yogis, those who are always thinking within their heart, worshiping me with great faith, those are the best of all. So basically saying, okay, I spoke to you about this Ashtanga Yoga, now you can forget about that. Now let's go to the next chapter, and the very next verse, he starts giving the clue about how you can practice yoga and achieve the goal of yoga in your everyday life, even in the hurly-burly of a city. So he starts out, Maya Sakta Manaparta, Yogam Yunjan Manashaya, Asangsayang Samagram Nanyata Tasri Tat Trinu. And the last word is Trinu, which Prabhupada takes off on, and he quotes this whole section in the 2nd chapter, 1st canto, beginning with Srinvatam Sukata Krishna. It's all based on hearing transcendental sound, beginning with the Hare Krishna mantra, and then and a Shastra as well. So here Krishna says, now I'm going to explain to you how you can have your mind naturally attracted to me. Asaktamana part. Because you'll think about what you're most attracted to. If you can cultivate an attraction for Krishna, then your mind will be running to Krishna. That's the, in other words, it's not an artificial thing. Even in the middle of the city, if you're in an environment such as an ashram, you can practice in such a way, watching your association, where your mind can become more and more enlivened by thinking of Krishna. That's what happens when you chant and we do all these other services. So Maya Saktana Yogam Yunjanmanasha, and this is the yoga process. And without doubt, Asangshyang Mam Yatagyasa, you can understand me to the limit that any human being can understand Krishna. You can understand me in truth. So this is what the 7th chapter, and what does he begin? By explaining these material energies. That's the first thing. He says it's very rare, Manushanam Sahasresha Kastijati Siddhya, for anyone to strive for perfection in this way. And even among those who achieve some kind of perfection, it's very rare to know me in truth. But you can know me in truth by this simple process I'm going to outline. So in other words, we want to be among those rare souls who achieve perfection in bhakti. So he begins with a description of our everyday life. What are we experiencing? Bhuma, Apa, Analavaya. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. That, anyone can understand those verses. Says, okay, it sounds Greek. The Greeks were into that? Because I think they got some of the same philosophy coming from the East. Analyzing this world as Sankhya, into solid matter, liquids, gases, more and more subtle, fire, and then what's inside the mind, intelligence, ego. Everyone can, if you think about it, yeah, we got that. So he discusses that and said, these are my energies. So now the whole idea is to connect our everyday experience with Krishna. We don't just live, a so-called normal life, material life, interacting with these things as objects of enjoyment or things we want to get away from. We understand it's all Krishna's energy. So the idea is that, and he reiterates it when he starts talking about our interactions with them. Rasoham apsukonteya, where it's not just water, we interact with it, there's a taste. That taste is me. So in other words, he covers all bases. The light of the sun and the moon, the ability of man, the fragrance of the earth, he's covering all the sensations and everything. So all of that is me. In other words, our experience of it, behind our experience of this world and ourselves, is Krishna. He's the source of the energies. He's our very source itself. My energy. You are part of my energy. He doesn't say marginal energy there, but we know that. We're essentially spiritual. So this is equivalent and parallel to the first step in God realization in the second canto, which is about the universal form. It's the same idea. Don't just see the ocean. Don't just see the stars. Don't just see you see this as part of the external body of the Lord. In other words, it's meant to give you divine eyes, so you see everything in terms of Krishna, of God. That's the first step. And if at the same time we're using these elements, and this is the key element of bhakti, in the service of Krishna, just like sound. Sound is one part of Krishna's energy. It could be the most ugly sound, material sound. It's still part of his energy. But that sound, which directly describes Krishna or gives his name, that's the sound that can deliver us. That's the sound that can purify our consciousness so that we can more and more see and hear and taste and smell and touch spiritually. And that's practical for everyone, no matter we're in the big city or out in the country or on the top of a mountain. It's the same earth, water, fire, air is always there. So this is how Krishna is. That's why the essence of the Gita is those middle 6 chapters, beginning with the 7th chapter. And ultimately he comes to the point of surrendering to me, Bahunam Dhamanamante, right in that chapter. That one who may cultivate knowledge over many, many lifetimes, but in the end, the fortunate soul, the Mahatma, will surrender unto me, understanding that I'm everything, which he described earlier in the chant. There's nothing in existence but Krishna. I've heard Prabhupada say several times in these lectures that ultimately everything is spiritual. Ultimately there's no material energy. The material energy is there because of our wish to forget Krishna, so we're provided with that. But even within the material energy, we can begin to see everything spiritually by connecting it to Krishna, both philosophically and where possible, practically. Just like this building. It's just made of earth and some fire moving through the electricity or whatever, mostly earth. And it was just an ordinary building. I don't know what it was used, a movie theater, warehouse, whatever it was. So then it was material, in the sense that it doesn't connect you to Krishna spontaneously. But by the efforts of the devotees, it's turned into a temple, and now it's acting spiritually. The old iron in the fire, If we, each one of us, keep our consciousness connected to Krishna by devotional service, then we, by connection to Krishna, become more and more spiritualized. And that means that our satisfaction, the mind becomes satisfied spiritually by hearing about Krishna and by remembering Krishna. There's no other peace available in this world. It may be a few, a certain moments when you feel peaceful and satisfied, but it's so temporary. It's just fool's gold. It looks like gold, but it's not really gold. It looks like peace and happiness, but it's not. It's just a Maya's trick. Prabhupada describes how this sense gratification is like bait for the conditioned soul. Without knowing anything about Krishna, you're kind of helpless. You're just being battered around by the material energy. So, that looks like fun. Let me try that. Oh yeah, that was fun. We had fun. And then then at a certain point, the reaction comes. And the more intense the fun, the more sooner reaction comes. I read a story about the opioid. It's just creating havoc in this world, in this country. Some guy got wrapped up in that, and he was a star football player or something. He had all prospects, and he overdosed, but he didn't die. He just messed up his brain, So he's like a vegetable, and parents have to take care of him for the rest of his life. Disaster, You're looking for, and I was thinking about this verse by Kapila Dev, because Krishna consciousness really does, if you practice it intensely. It relieves all kinds of anxieties, obviously, and subtle problems you have. But at the same time, you can even transcend a lot of physical difficulty, the physical pain. And that just reminds me of a verse by Kapila Dev when he's describing to his mother the need for transferring one's attachment from matter to spirit. And the intermediary is the sadhus. In other words, he says, take that attachment, that affection, and turn it to pure devotees. Pasangamadhanam pashamatnama kavayo vidu saeshu sadhushu krito moksha dwaram apavatam. He says, you want liberation, moksha? Here's the first step. You take your intense attraction, prasangam. Pra is like an intensifier. So you have sangha. Now sangha means association, but it also means attachment. Right? So prasangam means strong attachment, ordinary material attachment. So you have to somehow turn that toward the sadhus. And it's called ajadam pasha, means very strong ropes. As you live in this world, ordinary people, you're tying more and more knots and hard ropes to this world. People think they're enjoying in this world, but actually they're just tying themselves up so that they're going to come back again and suffer like anything. So that's very attachment should be transferred to the sadhus, and that opens the door to liberation. Well, who are the sadhus? And he has three verses actually. Tatikshava karunika suridak sarvadehina. The sadhu is very tolerant, but very compassionate, the best friend of every living entity, has no enmity toward anyone, ajata shatta, but very peaceful. Because of all this, very peaceful. Abides by the Shastra. And then how does he get all this? Next verse. Mayananyena bhavena bhaktim kurvande yedudam. By performing one pointed and very intense and unending bhakti to me, Kapila Dev, Krishna. And such a sadhu was ready to give up any activity that's impeding his devotion. Mat krute tyakta karmanas. For my sake, give up any activity, and even give up association with friends and relatives, if that's an impediment. Says, what does he do? Manashraya, the word ashraya here means in relation to me. Manashraya katam rishta shrinvanti katayandija. Hearing and chanting the delightful vibrations describing me. That's what manashraya kata, mrishta, very sweet. And by that hearing and chanting, absorption, this brings up the point where I wanted to mention this verse. Tapandi vividastapa naita mangata chetasa. The vivida tapa, the varied miseries of this world, he doesn't feel as intensely. Tapandi maitan madgata chetasa, because the mind is fixed on me, and I mitigate this difficulty. So Krishna consciousness is a real, I don't want to say opioid, but it's the way of counteracting the miseries of this world. Not some chemical which obviously just creates havoc in your life. So he goes on with that, and then he says, you should search out such persons, oh mother. He calls her a sadhvi, a female sadhu. It's kind of a play on words. He's saying, go see the sadhu. She's already a sadhu, but she's taking the role, the disciple. And it says, sarva sangha vivarjita. These sadhus are free of material attachment. This is, he's again describing sangha, to search them out, because sangha dosha harahite. It's a kind of a whole play on words. It's sangha. What did it say? Tahite sadhavak sadhvi sarva sangha vivarjita sangha steshate prata sangha dosha harahite. Search out these great sadhus and associate with them and become attracted to them, because it will all sangha dosha hara. It will take away, counteract all of the faults that you've developed from bad association in the past. Because in speaking all of us through his mother. You remember in the 15th chapter, Nirmana Moha, this is the process of surrender. He has a few verses describing the upside down banyan tree, how this is a reflection of the tree. And then he says, you've got to cut down that tree with the sword of detachment. You see? But that's not the end of it. Then you have to surrender to that person from whom everything is emanated. In other words, God, Krishna. How to surrender? He has a whole verse that describes. Nirmana moha jita sangha dosha. Notice the word saying is jita sangha dosha. That being free of false pride, the illusion of false pride, and having conquered over all the effects of bad association and bad attachment. Jita sangha dosha. Dosha is false. Nirmana moha jita sangha adhyatma nitya bhinavritta kama. Being always fixed in spiritual thoughts and activities. Bhinavritta kama. Being done with lust. Prabhupada says this as material desire. Jita sangha dosha adhyatma nitya bhinavritta kama. Dvandvaya vimukta sukha dukkha sangha. Having transcended the dualities of material happiness and distress. Sukha dukkha. Gachancha mudha. Such a person, unbewildered, enlightened person, padamabhyayang tat, goes to that supreme abode. Know that this is the process. So that's practically the first instruction of Kapila Dev. And it's all fixed on hearing and chanting, because that's when he establishes, what are you going to do when you come among the sadhus, genuine sadhus? Well, Satam prasanga, next verse. Satam prasangan mama virya samvidho bhavanti vidkana vasayana kata. Notice the word prasanga is again there. It started out with prasanga. So satam prasangan means by this intense, meaningful association among sadhus, pure devotees. You're going to hear talks about me. Mama virya samvidho. And this is bhavanti vidkana vasayana, just like a life-giving elixir for the heart and the mind. Bhavanti, the ear and the heart. Bhavanti rit karna rasayana kata. And by this process, this is your yoga process. No going off to the Himalayas and drilling the respiration. You just come amongst the devotees, and of course, what's the ideal of all hearing and chanting? Kirtan, Sankirtan. I chant, you hear. You chant, I hear. This is it. So that. So that bhavanti tadjoshanat ashu bhagavatmani. By practicing this simple process, which is the easiest yoga process, that's in the next verse, one will progress nicely on the path of liberation and gradually, step by step, develop Shraddha, faith, Rati, attraction, and Bhakti, which means pure devotion to Krishna. And then he has two final verses. I might as well finish them. So then he says, by this hearing and chanting, you're going to be thinking about my pastimes. So bhakti-apaman jata viraga aindriyad. Because the whole idea is to get this vairagya. If you become completely detached from the material energy, there's nothing to bring you back here. So that's where the liberation comes in. So bhakti-apaman jata viraga aindriyad drishta shrutan madvachanam chintaya. By coming in the association of devotees, you're going to be hearing and chanting about my activities. Mad rachanano chintaya. Your mind will be fixed with. Rachana is my lila. So by a person who practices bhakti in this way, generates detachment. Not only from what you see, you have seen personally, but from what you heard about. In other words, the heavenly planets. We haven't seen them, we've just heard about them. Oh, I want to go there, I want to go there. You know. So you become detached from that too. Both of what you see here, or have seen, as well as what have you heard. And chittasya yato grahane yoga yukto, thus practicing this simple yoga, the mind becomes controlled. Yatishyate vrijubhi yoga margai. Vrijubhi means easy. This is the easiest process of yoga. And then the final verse, he describes the end result. Asevayayam prakade gunanan ganena vayagrata vijumbitena. Thus developing one's knowledge as well as vigyan and the vairagya by this process, and not serving the modes of nature. Asevayayam prakade gunana. Not serving these modes of nature, serving Krishna. One develops more and more knowledge and detachment. And then yogena maya arpita yacha bhaktya. By staying connected to me in this way, offering everything to me, the final result is Mam pratyagatman mihavarunde. One actually realizes me in the spiritual world. It all starts with association with sadhus. Like that's why I call this the sadhu sangashtik. There happen to be 8 verses. Very wonderful. So that's the yoga for us. It's all based on coming together. In our yoga process, the more the merrier, you know. Not this, everyone alone in some, lonely cave somewhere drilling a respiration. Can you imagine trying to advance in that way? I can't. I tried it. It didn't work. I had to join up. Hare Krishna. All right, we've gone a little over time. Any questions? Sati is now self-immolating, and we'll see what the result of that is. Daksha is going to get his comeuppance now. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.